Hey everyone, this is Troy from TroyPoint.com, and in this video I'm going to show you how to set up a whole home IPTV DVR system and Plex media server with the ZimaBoard 832. Due to the strict file permissions on new Android TV streaming devices, it's becoming more difficult to record IPTV on USB drives. This solution allows for recording over the network, which will allow for playback on any device both on the network or when away from home. You can think of the ZimaBoard as a mini computer that resides on your home network, and due to its small footprint, it consumes very little electricity. Plus, it has dozens of cool apps that can be installed. Now, there's different ways to connect storage to this device, but I chose a 2 terabyte SSD drive and ordered this adapter off of the ZimaBoard website that allows me to connect it to the device. First, you need to plug in the small power cable, and it's important that you line up the small tabs at the top when inserting it. Then you can connect your SSD drive to the adapter. The great thing about this adapter is that you can connect 2 drives if you would like. Once I have everything ready to go, all I do is plug the ZimaBoard into an available LAN port on the back of my router and power it up, which I will do right now. By the way, I am linking to everything that I'm using in this video in the notes below, so be sure to take a look at those. Okay, you guys will see that I'm currently on my Windows PC, and the way we need to access the ZimaBoard is through a browser. Now, you can probably also do this on your phone or tablet. It's just much easier using a computer because you have a keyboard and mouse. It's easier to get around. So I'm going to go ahead and launch my Chrome browser. And now in the address bar, I'm going to type in CasaOS.local. Hit enter. We get the welcome screen. I'm going to click go. And now I'm going to set up a username and password. It's important that you remember this because when you come back here in the future, you will need to log in. Okay, I've written down my username and password that I've set. I'm going to click create. Okay, now it's asking me if it's okay to show the news feed from CasaOS. I'm going to click accept. Now you're going to see right away that the ZimaBoard is using CasaOS as the operating system. And right away, once we log in, we get the dashboard right here. Now the first thing I want to do, I want to go up here to settings, top left corner, and I want to click this update. The great thing about CasaOS is that they do release quite a few updates, and I suggest coming in here from time to time and making sure that you are up to date. And here are the release notes for 0.4.9. More than likely when you do this, it's going to be a higher version. Update now. I'm happy to see that this update is working. I've gone through this tutorial before with a ZimaBoard that I purchased from Amazon.com, and unfortunately the date wasn't correct, so the update didn't work. I had to issue a bunch of commands through the terminal, and it took a lot to get it up and running. And I think what's happening is that Amazon probably has a lot of devices sitting in the warehouse that haven't been updated, or they don't have a recent firmware on there that's giving the correct time, so the update won't happen. I ordered this one directly through the ZimaBoard website, and it was cheaper than Amazon. And again, I'm linking to that in the video description below. I suggest going through the official ZimaBoard website instead of Amazon. Okay, the update has processed. I'm going to now log in with the username and password that I set earlier. It says upgrade complete. We get the release notes again. I'm going to close that window. Okay, now we're going to add the external storage that we plugged in earlier. Now you may notice you have a window right here that it says it's found a new drive. So you can either go into Storage Manager here, or if you don't have that window, you can just come over here, click the Settings button, and that'll bring up the Storage Manager. Now right now you're going to notice that the external hard drive isn't showing. It's just showing the internal drive, which is the operating system, and that's why it says OS. But if you go in here to drive, it shows my 2 terabyte drive right here. So what I want to do now is click Create Storage. I'm going to call this SSD1. In the future, I might add another solid state drive to that other port, and I'll call that SSD2. Choose drive. You'll see that it's already selected here. And this here is just a reminder that once you add this, it's going to format the disk. So if you have anything important on that disk, make sure you make a backup of it, because again, it's going to completely erase the disk. Now I'm going to click Format and Create. Okay, we got the green check mark that says it has added it successfully. And you're going to see here now it's been added to our storage list. Now they do have a beta option here where you can merge storages, which means you would add these two together. I have not tried that yet. Proceed with caution. Again, it is a beta experiment right now. I'm going to leave this as is. Okay, I'm going to exit out of this window. Okay, once the storage has been added successfully, I suggest rebooting the ZimaBoard. So I'm going to do that now. And to do that, all you need to do is click the settings button in the top left and then hit restart. Are you sure? Click that again. And the device will reboot. Okay, I'm going to log in. Go back into storage, and it is still showing both of our drives, which is good. Okay, now I'm going to go into Files. And you're going to see here under Location, our new SSD drive is listed. Now, right when you come in here, you're going to see that there's folders already created. These are the default folders available through CasaOS on the ZimaBoard. What I want to do is go into my SSD drive here. In this area, I want to create various folders that I can share on my network. They're going to store my IPTV recordings along with everything that I put on my Plex media server, such as movies, TV shows, pictures, music, home videos, whatever that is. I can create folders in here and then point to those through Plex Media Server. So now that I'm in this location, I'm just going to come over here and right click, hit new folder. First one I'm going to do is IPTV recordings. And I do want this shared on the network. So I'm going to check that, submit, and the folder is created. And then just a few test folders for Plex Media Server. Right click, new folder. Let's say I want to use Plex Media Server for some of the movies I have. We want that shared. I'll do another one here, TV shows, shared. Now, if you forget to check the shared button, you can always come back in here, right click the folder, and then there's going to be a sharing option right here. So if I would say stop sharing, you'll notice that green share icon goes away, but I can still come back in here and share it. Okay, speaking of Plex Media Server, I'm going to exit out of this screen here, go into App Store. Now, one of the great things about the ZimaBoard and CasaOS is that you have tons and tons of applications that you can install onto this device. Be sure to hit the subscribe button because I will be covering many more tutorials with the ZimaBoard and CasaOS in the future, and we will be going through some of these applications. For now, I'm going to install Plex. Hit the install button. Next steps. And now I'm going to wait for this to install. And you're going to see here after I install Plex, it's going to be listed here on this main dashboard. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and launch it. Now you do have these various options for logging into the Plex Media Server. I do have an account, so I'm going to hit continue with email. And if you don't have an account, you can click this here, sign up with email, sign in. Okay, now you can name your server. I have already done this in the past with CasaOS, so I already have a server named that in my Plex account. So I'm going to change this to ZimaBoard. You can name this whatever you'd like. Allow me to access my media outside my home. I definitely want that checked. That's one of the great features of Plex. You can get to your movies, TV shows, home videos, pictures, music from anywhere. Okay, now it's asking us to add libraries to Plex Media Server. Now, if you remember earlier, I set up those test folders. We'll use those here in a little bit, but right now we can't do anything because we haven't defined any volumes for Plex, and I'll show you how to do that here in a little bit. For now, we're going to skip this step and click Next, and then click Done. Okay, now on the left side, if I hit More, you're going to see ZimaBoard here at the top. If I click that, we can come back in here later and add our libraries. So now that I've got Plex initially set up, we need to add the volumes. We need to point Plex Media Server to the external hard drive that we connected earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of Plex. We're back to CasaOS. Now I'm going to click these three dots, top right hand corner of the Plex shortcut, go into Settings. I'm going to move down, and you're going to see volumes here. I want to click Add. It's going to add a new line here so we can input information for our new external hard drive that we added. Now, this little button here serves as a browse button, so I'm going to click that. Move down, double click Mount, MNT. And here is our hard drive. If you remember, we named it SSD1 earlier in the tutorial. I'm going to double click this, and now we're inside the SSD1 hard drive. And this is what I want to select. You can see the test folders that we created earlier. Okay, now we can't leave this container box empty. You can name this whatever you would like. This is basically labeling the shortcut that we just set up, and you will choose this here in a later step. I'm just going to call this Plex Media. Hit Save. Now, some of you may be connecting storage to a USB port on the ZimaBoard. That's different from this adapter that I'm using for the SATA port. And if you are a TroyPoint insider and you watched my first impressions video of this, I did use a USB adapter for an SSD drive. Now, if you're doing that, if you're using any type of USB media, you're going to want to type in something differently within the volume section for these Plex settings. So here I'm on the first board that I set up, and again, this is using a USB SSD adapter. So I'm going to go into the settings for Plex on this device and show you what you need to do. In the box, you'll want to put /media. Now you're not going to want to browse for this. You're just going to type in /media and then name that whatever you would like, something that you'll be able to easily identify in the list when you browse for your Plex shares. I use /USB SSD in all caps, that way it sticks out in the list. Now that we're in here, I also suggest checking something else. Move down to Devices. You want to make sure that you have this line right here, /DEV, /DRI in both boxes. What that does is enable hardware acceleration for those of you who have subscribed to the Plex Pass. Plex does offer a premium account. I personally have their lifetime package, so I can take advantage of this functionality. There are features that the Plex Pass will provide to you if you're on their premium plan. But this is very important if you are one of those people, so you can enable hardware decoding in the settings of Plex. Okay, now I'm going to hit Save. And you're going to see here it says Starting Installation. And all that's doing is basically inputting those settings into Plex Media Server. Okay, I'm going to launch Plex again. Go to More. Click ZimaBoard. And now I'm going to go into Manage Libraries. Add Library. First, I'm going to choose my Movies folder. If you remember, I set up a movies, TV shows, and IPTV recordings folders. So movies, you can change the name if you'd like here. Hit next, browse for media folder. Okay, on the right side now, we should see our label that we set up earlier, and there it is, Plex Media. I'm going to go into that, and then I'm going to choose movies. Hit add library, and now I'm going to do the same for TV shows. Now something else that you can do is you can add your IPTV recordings folder to Plex Media Server. You can access those recordings from anywhere. So I'm going to hit add library, and for this I'm going to choose other videos. And I'm just going to call this IPTV recordings. Hit next, browse, Plex Media, IPTV recordings. Soon I'm going to show you how to connect TVMate, the IPTV player, to the ZimaBoard, and we're going to point the recordings to the IPTV recordings folder. But the nice thing is, in the future, you'll be able to play those recordings through TVMate, or you should be able to open Plex and play them directly through here as well. Okay, now you may ask how you get your media onto the ZimaBoard within CasaOS. All you have to do is go into CasaOS, Files. Let's say you want to add a movie. You're going to choose your external hard drive on the left, go into Movies, and you'll see here you can upload files directly into this interface here. Awesome feature. Now you can also get to CasaOS by going into Network within your computer settings, whether it's through Microsoft Windows, Mac, Linux, whatever. You should be able to see the CasaOS operating system on your device, and it should be labeled as CasaOS. So you can add files that way as well. Most Android file managers should do the same thing. Now, many times you're going to need an IP address of the ZimaBoard for some of these applications, and we will need that for TVMate here in a little bit. So now I'm going to show you how to figure out what the local IP address is of the ZimaBoard. I'm going to exit out of this, and you're going to see here there's a little terminal icon here, top left hand corner. I'm going to click that. Now the default username and password to get into the terminal is CasaOS. You use that for both. Leave 22 for port, hit connect. Okay, now I want to issue a command, and that is sudo space ifconfig space -a. Hit enter. This is going to give you information about the ZimaBoard network, and I'm looking for the local IP address, and here it is right here, 192.168.1.157. Now if your router assigns IP addresses with different numbers, it might be different than 192.168. Most routers use that for the first part of their IP address, but if yours is different, the numbers here won't be similar. But you should be able to find what you need under this here, ENP2S0, and it should be right here. So this is the IP address that I'm going to input into TVMate to connect to the ZimaBoard for our recordings, which I will do here in a little bit. But there's one step that I want to take before moving over to my streaming device. I want to make sure when the ZimaBoard reboots that my router doesn't assign it a different IP address. We want the same IP address at all times for the devices that we connect to this, because if for some reason the router assigns a different IP address to this, then our connections to the ZimaBoard won't work. So I'm going to open another tab and I'm going to open my router interface. For me, I'm using an ASUS router. So all I need to do is type in router.asus.com. Now, if you don't have an address similar to that, usually all you need to do is type in the IP address to get to your router control panel. And typically that's 192.168.1.1. That's usually default for most routers. You can refer to the documentation within your router on how to get to your control panel. Okay, I'm going to type in my username and password for the control panel. Okay, I'm going to scroll down. I want to go into LAN, DHCP server. Most routers will have this setting, even if you aren't using an ASUS router. And what I want to do now is manually assign an IP address to this ZimaBoard. So I'm going to hit the drop down arrow here, and I'm looking for CasaOS. And here it is right here. Now you're going to see when I add that, it automatically inputs the MAC address of the device and its current IP address. I'm going to just leave this as it is. Hit the plus sign, and now I'm going to hit the apply button. So what this is doing is from now on, no matter what reboots, whether it's the router or the ZimaBoard, I'm always going to have this assigned IP address. This will never change, so we always know that our device is connected to it. Will never become disconnected due to a new IP address being assigned. Hit apply, and it has been added to our list here. Okay, now I'm going to move over to my streaming device and point TVMate to the ZimaBoard so we can record to that. Okay guys, I'm now on my ON 4K Pro Android TV box. And I'm going to move down. I'm going to go into TVMate. If you don't have TVMate installed, I will link to the tutorial in my video notes along with everything else that I'm referencing. Be sure to take a look at that. Back button on my remote a few times. I want to go into Settings, Other, Recording, Recordings folder, select folder, set up SMB that will allow us to access files over the network, go into server address. Now, if you remember earlier, we already got our IP address for the ZimaBoard, and that's what I'm going to type in here. More than likely, yours is going to be different than this number. Make sure you figure out what yours is by looking at the instructions that I provided earlier. Okay, I've typed in my IP address. Move down. I'm going to just call this Zima or ZimaBoard. You can name this whatever you'd like. I don't need a username or password. Hit OK. Now I'm going to choose Zima. There's my IPTV recordings folder. Choose that. Move over to the right and hit select. Now every recording that I schedule within TVMate will go directly to that folder. And the great thing about using TVMate, if you set this up within multiple devices on your home network, you'll be able to see all the recordings from every device. It's like a whole home DVR system. Now you can also point to that folder through other popular Android TV boxes such as Formula and Buzz TV. And one last thing I want to leave you with, I want to go back to the home screen and launch the Plex application. You can install this through Google Play Store or through the Amazon App Store for free, but I just want to show you how everything is connected in this application. So I'm going to launch Plex. And when you first do this, you're going to have to input your username and password to get into your account. I'm going to move over to the left, hit more, ZimaBoard, and now I can get into my different folders and watch whatever content I've dropped into those folders through my ZimaBoard. So there you go, guys. That is how you can set up your very own whole home IPTV DVR and Plex media server with the ZimaBoard. As mentioned earlier, everything that I reference in this video will be linked in the video description, product links, additional tutorials, anything that will help you complete this process. I will leave notes in the video description. I kindly ask that you give this video a thumbs up. Also, please be sure to subscribe to my TroyPoint channel. Hit the bell icon to be notified when I release new videos like this in the future. And as always, have an awesome day and thanks for following TroyPoint.